The courtroom fell silent the instant the husband sneered across the room and called his wife worthless trash. Every eye turned toward the young woman sitting alone at the defense table, her hands trembling but her head still held high. Then, before anyone realized what was happening, the courtroom doors opened, a distinguished federal judge stepped inside, and the husband's confident smile slowly disappeared. What happened over the next hour would leave everyone in that courtroom speechless and remind them that dignity can never be measured by someone's wealth, appearance, or the cruel words spoken against them. If you believe kindness is stronger than cruelty, forgiveness is more powerful than revenge, hope can change lives, and everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel for more emotional stories that inspire the heart. The bright morning sun streamed through the tall courthouse windows as people quietly filled the gallery for what most believed would be another routine divorce hearing. Attorneys organized stacks of documents while court officers greeted arriving witnesses. Among them sat Clara Whitmore, a soft-spoken woman whose calm expression hid years of emotional pain. She wore a simple navy suit that she had borrowed from a friend because she could not afford new clothes after months of financial hardship. Her eyes carried exhaustion, but they also carried remarkable strength. She had promised herself that no matter what happened that day, she would leave the courtroom with her dignity intact. Across the room stood her husband, Preston Hale, an ambitious businessman whose expensive tailored suit seemed almost as polished as his carefully crafted public reputation. Friends admired his success, neighbors praised his confidence, and social media painted him as a devoted family man. Few people knew what happened behind closed doors. For years Preston had slowly convinced Clara that she was never good enough. Every mistake became proof of her failure. Every sacrifice she made for their family was dismissed as insignificant. She gave up her own career so he could build his company, believing they were building a future together. Instead, she slowly became invisible in her own marriage. The judge assigned to oversee the hearing had been unexpectedly delayed because of an emergency involving another courtroom, so everyone waited patiently. During the delay, Preston grew increasingly arrogant. Believing the courtroom was simply another stage on which to display his superiority, he spoke loudly enough for nearly everyone to hear. He mocked Clara's clothes, laughed about her lack of income, and suggested she had contributed nothing to their marriage except problems. His attorney quietly encouraged him to lower his voice, but Preston ignored the warning. Then came the words that froze the room. He looked directly at Clara and declared that she was nothing more than worthless trash who should be grateful anyone had ever married her. Several people gasped. One elderly woman sitting in the gallery shook her head in disbelief. Even the court clerk paused while organizing paperwork. Clara closed her eyes for only a moment. Years earlier those words would have shattered her completely. But something inside her had changed. Months of counseling, quiet reflection, and the encouragement of one very special person had slowly rebuilt the confidence that cruelty had tried to destroy. Without saying a single word, she simply looked down at her folded hands. That calm response somehow frustrated Preston even more. He wanted tears. He wanted anger. He wanted victory. Instead, he found silence. A few moments later, the courtroom doors opened again. Everyone stood automatically as a distinguished woman wearing the robe of a federal judge entered alongside court officials. She had been asked to temporarily preside because of scheduling complications. Her silver hair reflected years of wisdom, and her composed expression commanded immediate respect. She introduced herself simply as Judge Eleanor Whitmore. The moment Clara looked up, tears quietly filled her eyes. Very few people in the courtroom realized what had just happened. Judge Eleanor Whitmore was Clara's mother. Years earlier, Clara had chosen to keep her family name out of her professional and personal life because she wanted people to value her for who she was rather than for her mother's respected legal career. Even Preston had rarely spoken to Eleanor after the wedding because he believed successful people only deserved attention if they could benefit his ambitions. He never bothered to learn much about Clara's family beyond polite holiday visits that grew less frequent over time. As Judge Whitmore reviewed the case file, she showed no sign of personal emotion. Her responsibility to the law came before everything else. Anyone watching her would never have guessed that the woman seated quietly before her was her own daughter. The proceedings began with remarkable professionalism. Both attorneys presented financial records, property documents, and testimony concerning the marriage. Judge Whitmore listened carefully to every statement without interruption. But facts have a way of exposing truths that pride cannot hide. Evidence showed Clara had spent nearly a decade supporting Preston's career. She had managed their home, cared for sick relatives, handled countless unpaid responsibilities, and even invested her personal savings into his first business venture. Meanwhile, financial records revealed that Preston had secretly transferred large amounts of money into accounts Clara never knew existed. Emails introduced during testimony demonstrated repeated emotional manipulation designed to make Clara doubt her own worth while ensuring she remained financially dependent. The polished image Preston had built over the years began collapsing piece by piece. Witnesses described Clara as patient, generous, and hardworking. Former employees recalled seeing Preston publicly humiliate her during company events. Neighbors remembered Clara volunteering at community shelters while Preston constantly reminded everyone of his own achievements. The courtroom atmosphere shifted dramatically. People no longer saw a successful businessman defending himself in a divorce. They saw a woman who had quietly carried enormous emotional burdens while asking for almost nothing in return. During a short recess, Clara sat alone near one of the courthouse windows overlooking the busy daytime streets below. The sunlight warmed her face as she remembered the countless mornings she had doubted herself. She remembered wondering whether she truly was the failure Preston claimed she was. She remembered apologizing for things that were never her fault simply to keep peace inside their home. Then she remembered something her mother once told her as a teenager. Real strength isn't proven by winning every battle. It's proven by refusing to become cruel after surviving one. Those words had carried her through the darkest moments of her marriage. When court resumed, Judge Whitmore carefully explained every legal decision with fairness and clarity. Her relationship to Clara had already been disclosed according to proper legal procedure, and both legal teams had agreed to continue because the temporary appointment complied with court rules and no party had raised a timely objection. The hearing focused entirely on evidence rather than emotion. In the final financial review, Preston's attempts to conceal assets became impossible to deny. The court ordered a full investigation into the undisclosed accounts. Clara received a fair share of the marital property based on years of documented contributions. Additional findings criticized Preston's financial misconduct and dishonest disclosures. For the first time all morning, Preston looked genuinely frightened. Yet the greatest lesson came not from the financial outcome. As the hearing concluded, Judge Whitmore addressed the courtroom with calm professionalism. Without mentioning family relationships, she reflected on the importance of respect within every human relationship. She explained that success measured only by money eventually collapses if built upon humiliation, dishonesty, and pride. Every person deserves dignity, whether they earn millions of dollars or quietly care for their family without recognition. The law could divide property fairly, but only character determined whether someone left the courtroom richer or poorer in spirit. Those words settled over the courtroom with remarkable silence. People understood they had witnessed something much greater than a divorce case. They had witnessed truth standing calmly against arrogance. After the hearing officially ended, Clara slowly gathered her documents. She expected to leave quietly, just as she had entered. Instead, several courthouse employees approached simply to wish her well. An elderly spectator gently squeezed her hand and whispered that courage often looks exactly like quiet endurance. One young law student admitted watching Clara remain composed had completely changed the way she understood strength. Outside the courthouse, the afternoon sun filled the city with warm golden light. Clara and her mother walked together down the courthouse steps. For several moments neither spoke. Then Clara smiled through tears. Not because she had won. Not because Preston had lost, but because she finally believed something she had struggled to accept for years. She had never been worthless. She had never been trash. She had always been enough. Across the street, Preston stood alone waiting for his attorney. Expensive watches, tailored suits, and business success suddenly felt meaningless beside the respect he had sacrificed through years of pride. For the first time, he understood that every cruel word spoken to another person eventually echoes back into the speaker's own heart. Regret cannot erase yesterday, but it can become the first step toward becoming someone better. Whether he would truly change remained uncertain, but the opportunity existed if he chose humility over arrogance. Months later, Clara began rebuilding her life. She returned to school, completed professional certifications she had postponed for years, and accepted a position helping families navigate difficult legal situations with compassion and patience. Her painful experiences became the source of extraordinary empathy. People trusted her because she understood heartbreak without allowing it to harden her heart. Judge Whitmore watched her daughter flourish with quiet pride. She knew the greatest victory had never been the courtroom decision. It was seeing Clara rediscover the confidence that had always lived within her. If you had been sitting in that courtroom, what lesson would have stayed with you the longest? Please leave a meaningful comment sharing whether you believe respect is the foundation of every relationship or whether forgiveness is the greater strength. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember, people may judge your appearance, your income, or your circumstances, but your true worth is never determined by another person's insults. Kindness leaves a legacy that pride never can, hope survives even the darkest seasons, and every new sunrise offers another chance to rebuild a life with courage, dignity, and love.